Hello, everybody. My name is Rayvon Terode. My presentation will be arguments by analogy. You can see by my background, I'm trying to make some kind of similarity comparison. What is an analogy? By dictionary.com, an analogy is a similarity between like fixtures of two things on which a comparison may be based. So it's like, you compare two things, of course, and you try to find the common thing between each other in order to get your message across. And I have some examples, and one is as light as a feather, and you can use this analogy as if you're picking up something and you're trying to tell somebody that it's really light. So you use this analogy to tell them that like they have no worry about it being difficult to pick up. No, hence as like you trying to just pick up a piece of paper that's light as a feather, or picking up like a 5 pound dumbbell. And then as busy as a bee, bees are working by the hour, every hour, always collecting pollen. So if you use this analogy, you're saying pretty much that you're not getting any breaks and you're always working hard as hell, and just working. And as quiet as a mouse, that analogy is used by as, you really don't hear a mouse moving much, You only can really see them, but you don't hear them moving. So when you use this analogy, it's like don't wake anybody up, or if you have to sneak by somebody, be quiet as a mouse because you don't hear them. And then I use this analogy hitting like a Mack truck when I play my video game, because if you get hit by a Mack truck, that's a lot of force being hit by. So if you're hitting like a Mack truck, that means you have a lot of power, and I think that gets the message across that like you're very powerful. So and then this one analogy, dumb as rocks, is like, rocks is an inanimate object. So it's like they have no intelligence. So if you're trying to describe somebody and you say, yeah, they're dumb as rocks, it's like pretty much they're really dull and they don't have no intelligence. So how analogies are used is analogy is very important in literature. It can be found in many forms of literature form in every culture and era. Analogies help readers and listeners explore relationships between like and unlike objects. So like I just said, it's like basically a comparison between two things in order to get your message across. You compare like, so hence like light as a feather or hard as metal, It's something to compare like the density of something or how much something weighs. And it helps you create a deeper significance inside of what you're trying to get across to the other person. It helps persuade them, and it helps convince them and hear out your message. So authors usually use these analogies in all types of literature for many reasons, such as to provide comparisons between like and unlike things, and it helps readers visualize characters and places. So like, yeah, it gives a deeper significance to what you're trying to say, and helps you connect to your audience more on another level, because you can help them understand what you're trying to say to them if they're not getting the direct language you're using. So you use general language in order for them to understand what you're actually trying to get across. So it's a very effective way of saying something. Examples used in everyday life is when you're trying to argue to somebody and you're trying to convince someone. So it's like you use the analogy, finding a good man is like finding a needle in a haystack. That's like a lot of females say nowadays. It's hard to find a good man. And they use this analogy saying like, it's impossible to find a needle in a haystack. So it's hard to find a good man in the real world because most men are alike. And then another analogy uses life is like a race. So I use like, it's like going back to like Nipsey Hussle, a marathon. You might not start out the best or the fastest, but it depends on how you finish. That's all that matters. So as long as you stay dedicated to what you think and believe in, and you finish strong, you'll be fine, because it's a marathon. And a movie is a roller coaster of a ride of emotions. So it's like you have your ups and downs. And it's like as you go through life, you're gonna experience that. So it's like you enjoy your highs, but you learn from your lows, because it's like when you're on a roller coaster, you enjoy when you're up high and but then when you're going down low, it's like it's a thrill. But when you are low, it's boring. You're not feeling anything. But then the anticipation of when you're going back up high, you know something's coming that's gonna be great. So that's that correlation. And then life is like a box of chocolates. That's from one of my good movies, Forrest Gump. I love that movie. And that's just saying you never know what you're gonna get because every box of chocolate has something different. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes. So it's like you have to take what you get and make best out of it, and enjoy what you can because you never know what's coming next. That's just life. And in science usage, um, I really don't know how much to elaborate off of this one, but it's how to express more information in a more general way, such as like the eukaryotic cell wall is like a prison. It's saying like the cell wall is like bricks, to protect the prison, and it holds up the structure of the prison. And they use that analogy to say like the bricks hold the prison together basically, and that's what the cell wall of the eukaryotic cell is doing to the cells. It's holding it together. And then the cell membrane is like an Oreo cookie, and saying like the two layers of the lipids are like the cookie wafers, the brown stuff. And then the inside is separated by the cream, and that's the Oreo cookie. And a fish contemplating water as humans contemplating magnetism. That's like a fish is inside the water. The water is surrounding all of its organs, and this way is getting its supply of oxygen is from the water. Just as humans, they are on Earth getting its oxygen, and the gravity is holding them down to the Earth from the magnetism. And so it's as if like, why would a human contemplate magnetism just as a fish would contemplate water? Because regardless, you're gonna feel gravity as you are on Earth. And then another one is water flowing through a pipe is just like blood flowing through a blood vessel or through veins. It's just like it has the same kind of mechanics. Just as water goes through a pipe, blood flows through veins and arteries, Same type of way and how it functions. And then moral arguments, is just what you can find good out of it. So like the relationship between small children is just like the relationship between dogs and their owners. Most couples, they will buy a dog first and raise it just to see how they are and how they handle things, because small dogs and small children are very much alike when raising one another, because you got to train them and mold them into what you want them to be. So it's a good like training mechanism, and the outcomes are good because like it's very moral to train a good dog, and if you can do that successfully, you have a good chance of raising a good child. Then another one is life is like football on grass, and you can take a lot from what you learn on a football field and apply it to real life, such as like constructive criticism, dedication, discipline, teamwork. I say that's one of the most essential things is teamwork. And it's like it's a great sport, and like you can apply many sports to this analogy. It doesn't just have to be football, but football is just a great way of explaining something, because I play football, and most of the stuff I did learn on the football field I can apply to real world, and it helps me get through life a lot more easier. And then like the moral one-on-one to me is treat people how you want to be treated. You always want to treat people with respect and kindness, regardless of their background and where they come from, because you never know what they're going through, So it's like if you want to have treatments and you want to have kindness back to you, you should give it out to them. That's just moral 101. And that is the end of arguments by analogy. Oh, but the strength of it using analogies, like I said, is you get across your message in a deeper way, and you can connect to your audience in a more significant way. Because sometimes when you're explaining something and it's like they're not understanding what you're saying just because of the language and the context you're using, if you can find a more general way of what they can connect to, it helps get your message across because they're connected and they can understand it, rather than using textbook language and definitions. So it's like me trying to explain, football terminology. You gotta somehow explain it in a real world way, or any sports method, it helps. But yeah, that's the end of my presentation.